So, on today's Tech Tuesday, we're going to focus in on the collapse of a certain social media platform, or maybe platforms. We're going to start with one, and maybe it'll expand as the weeks go on. Well, it probably will. But leading the pack in this regard, at least for right now, is the formerly coveted memory sharing tool, or app, known as Snapchat. Facebook wanted Snap so badly back in 2013 that they offered $3 billion for the company. Of course, they wanted to acquire what they saw as an existential threat, and in a certain way, they were probably right. It did change how Facebook was received or used, especially by the younger demographics. Now, when the company itself, Snap, went public in 2017, it was valued at $25.5 billion. Now, that's a lot of money. By 2020, Snap was worth over $37 billion, and at its peak in 2021, right in the middle there, September, I think, it was worth over $90 billion. Now, times have changed fundamentally. Recently, it announced a reduction in its workforce that is equal to 1/5 of its employees. That's right, 20% are saying bye-bye. And for those that have been around since the internet bubble burst the first time, well, this looks eerily familiar. At least it does to me. So what's happening right now? That's a good question. And who else is going to be seeing this kind of an adjustment? Well, more companies than you think. So on this Tech Tuesday, we're going to focus in on, shining a light on those questions and maybe some of those answers. And we'll get to the bottom of, some of the collapse around ad techs. Here's a fun fact you probably didn't know. Snap itself has never recorded a net profit. From 2015 to 2021, the net losses for this company are, staggering. $5.7 billion. That's a lot of money. There has been absolutely no upside with this company since it's gone public, at least, with the exception of obviously a growing stock price. And that stock value was, like a lot of things, was artificially inflated. Now, the growth there, as far as the users go, at least the average daily users, has been focused primarily, at least in recent years, in India. They make up 1/3 of all of the users that use the platform on a regular basis. The United States is in second place, but well behind the significant usage in India. Now, the shrinking ad tech market right now is not helped in the revenue department for this entity. That's not a surprise when, again, you're spread out internationally in places where ad tech just doesn't seem to propel you forward. Now, we're at the reality stage for this company and probably ad tech as a whole and all of the entities that have been relying on it for a very long period of time. So again, reality can be a biatch, right? CEO Evan Spiegel, he's a smooth-talking, good-looking kid. He's been trying to manage some expectations for Wall Street for a while, basically telling everybody that there's going to be a downward slide. He's been setting some realistic benchmarks in a continued decline, which is surprising. Most CEOs don't do that. He often bucks trends, and he's usually pretty effective at changing the conversation. Well, maybe not exactly the direction of the company, but at least the conversation around it. And in previous remarks, he's even indicated that the path forward would include significant cutbacks and obviously some changes in their initiatives or the things that they're developing in the background. All of this culminated in the announcement that was made last week, right at the end of, August here. And basically a Thanos level finger snap that did clear 20% of the decks at the company and a sweeping change in what they were developing behind the scenes. Now, this is pure cost savings. You're going to see more and more of this at these major corporations. You're going to see it yield some benefits, but I question that it will yield the $500 million that are suggested here, at least as far as savings go. The reason being is rarely do you accomplish these kinds of savings with, well, at least in full, because you have a number of costs that are associated with actually separating employees. It usually costs you quite a bit of money, and those costs actually eat into a big chunk of what those savings were going to be after all is said and done. And it's not just the loss of the mainline employees that we're focused on, that 20%, right? Ad tech is actually going to get even more cutthroat because everybody's trying to make money from ads, and there's going to be fewer dollars going around. You're going to get bargain basement ad spots probably in the future, outside of, maybe some linear stuff that you can't replace, like live sports and events. And because of this new cutthroat move that everybody's going to have to make, losing some key executives, and we'll get to those in a moment, well, especially since those are going to rivals, that's going to really, really hurt. There are two key executives actually that are leaving to Netflix, and they're going to be aiding Netflix in their pursuit of, beating everybody to the punch with their ad tier on their streaming service. And of course, we'll probably talk about that more this week with Disney and some other entities. The article here that we're referencing, that again, I'm not reading, I've decided not to read articles as much anymore, but that is basically pointing out some other areas of concern for Snap. See, Twitter is looking much more stable, especially if you look at the charts here. And when it comes around to stock price, it's a little bit more stable in that realm as well. It also points out that the Facebook entity itself has become incredibly stagnant, sitting right at that 2 billion active users or whatever they're claiming. I don't believe any of those numbers anymore, and probably I shouldn't have believed them to begin with, because again, there's no way to check. And when you have all of these bots and everything else, and then of course the expose on the bot farms, well, it really leads to question just how many actual users are on any of these platforms. If you look at Facebook and Twitter and all these other entities, it looks like TikTok is completely outpacing all of them, at least as far as growth goes, at least in a certain demographic segment. And that speaks to obviously the availability of the product and how it's perceived by the people using it, and the fact that dumb videos have always sold, especially in short form. Anyway, the diversification into AR, augmented reality, has really been the solid strategy move with very little payoff for Snap. They haven't really gained a lot of ground there despite their investment in it. The line of spectacles that they released didn't exactly fly off the digital shelves. And while there is definitely a future in AR and AR tech, it's just not going to, grow during a period of financial upheaval, which I would say everybody now recognizes is where we're at. And in particular, globally, holy cow, have you seen some numbers from other countries? It's insane. And Snap is abandoning some of these other things that they've had in development. In fact, many of the things they marketed just haven't caught on. One of those things is going to be their selfie drone camera. Maybe you've seen it. It's called Pixie. It wouldn't surprise me if you haven't, because I don't think it was well marketed. And if they're only marketing to the Snap kids, well, that's not a big audience. And you're marketing to people who are trying to sell things to, people who really are used to getting a lot of stuff for free digitally and just don't really spend money the way you want them to. It's very fickle when you're marketing to that demographic. But we need to return to the biggest part of this conversation, and that's the ad tech aspect of it. It's really the most relevant for all of these social platforms, anything that has a social media tie, including obviously services like the one I'm talking to you right now on. They've lost two of the most significant persons in their advertising arm. This is incredibly telling. Any astute analyst is going to be looking at this, and they're going to look at the small ride that they're going to get from this announcement. Mind you, you're going to see a small bump in the stock. You probably have already seen it the last couple of days, but then they're going to look at it and see when that bump starts to fall off. And those folks will probably recommend, either holding or maybe dipping out a little bit from the stock, take some profits. Wouldn't surprise me if that's the case, and it shouldn't surprise anybody who's familiar with that kind of strategy. So when an analyst sees losing key employees, they see the same thing I do. People are abandoning ship, and maybe they're abandoning ship for better pastures. Maybe it's a better job. And we can argue that it probably is based on just how much value is over there at Netflix. But losing employees at turbulent times can really upset the apple cart, especially when you rely on selling advertisements to, people trying to market their products. And when you lose the two best, well, you've got real problems. And once again, Snap is basically the bellwether. And we've been talking about them for a while as basically the telltale signs of what's going to happen to the broader social media landscape, especially when it comes to ad tech. I continue to expect much lower performance from Snap, and I think a lot of people will probably agree. There's just too much going on a macroeconomic level that isn't being addressed by any kind of regulation or any of these companies as far as what they're trying to navigate with their leadership or how they're trying to navigate with their leadership. Looking in the direction of the macroeconomic shift that I mentioned, you're seeing lots of costs rise. You're seeing costs of utilities rise at exponential rates, especially in Europe and especially in the UK. UK could end up with no manufacturing in less than a year, just based on how much utility costs have run up. I don't see an end in sight, unfortunately, but I guess that's part of a plan for somebody. I'm not going to go into that, of course, but I see a lot thinner days ahead for all of the social media platforms as well. A lot of people with jobs won't have them anymore, and that's never good for selling products. I wonder if anybody thought about this before they, moved forward with this ridiculous stuff that we're seeing now. But I guess it really doesn't matter because ultimately it comes down to consumer confidence in anything, at least when you're looking at stocks or purchasing something. A lot of people are not purchasing spectacles, Pixie, or even any of the stuff that's offered on any of these ad tech platforms, and I think that that'll get thinner and thinner as days go forward. But we've come to the part of the video to ask you, what do you think? Do you think that Snap's going to be one of the failures in this social media race in ad tech? Do you think they'll be acquired by a rival? I think that's a possibility. Do you see Snap resurging and regaining the 75% in value that it's lost over the course of the last year? That's right, 75% drop year over year. Holy cow. Could you imagine going from 90.9 billion or nearly 91 billion and sinking all the way down to 35 or less? I don't know where we're going to end up with Snap in the next few days, but I do know this. That's disappointing, at least from an investor standpoint. But those questions I pose to you, so please leave your comments down below, and of course any thoughts that you have outside of what we talked about here. And let's have a bit of a conversation. I think that this is one of those things that is going to lead us into other conversations because Snap's not the only social out there that is struggling with ad tech right now, and I think that's only going to get broader. But again, whatever you think, please put down in the comment section below. I truly appreciate that. I also appreciate all the support that we give to other independent creators here on the platform. We absolutely need to support these folks because, they're not getting a lot of love from the platform itself. It's really important to comment. It's really important to share content. It's really important to like content if you do like it. And of course, it's important to subscribe to your favorite creators. And be sure to turn on notifications so you don't miss anything, because you'd be surprised how much you miss when you don't have the bell turned on. It's amazing. I can actually tell when people don't have all notifications turned on my side of things, and believe it or not, all of the other creators out there can too. I get a considerable number of views from people who aren't actually subscribed to the channel. If you all took the time to hit the button, it's free. If you don't have an account, create one. That's also free, and it also gives you an opportunity to get a membership gifted to you by somebody, which is a new feature that I do appreciate YouTube adding, and I wish other platforms would do as well. With all that being said, I'll end the video the same way I always do, which is to say, be sure to take care of yourself, take care of others, wash your hands, of course, because it's good hygiene. And until next time, bye. Thanks for visiting today. Be sure you're subscribed and hit that for alerts.
Yay!
Of course, like and share all of the videos that you can, as it helps with the algorithm. Have a great day.